This is our camp store at Ferncrest Campground, and on a good night, it can generate $500 without a single staff member present. This building was here when we bought the campground, and it was falling down. It was in really rough shape. It was actually a cabin that somebody probably built 20, 30 years ago. And the only thing in there is electricity. There's no plumbing, there's no sewage. And the good thing is that's perfect for a camp store. So we were able to re-side the areas that needed to be redone. We painted it this nostalgic campground brown, turned it into a camp store that honestly turns heads. This place is probably one of the most talked about aspects of our campground. And even though it's like a smaller part of the overall business, I feel like a camp store is the nostalgic thing that everybody wants to go to and buy from when they're staying here at the campground. So this here is a structure that only cost us about $5,000, give or take, in material to get up and running as a store. You could turn a shipping container, you could turn a shed, you can turn a lot of different things into a camp store because ultimately you only need 100 or 200 square feet and you can generate amazing amounts of revenue. To get into the camp store, it's guest only access. So the keypad access is the same code that guests get for their dome tents, which means that we can have it entirely self-service. So it's on our system, which I think some people have concerns about when they hear about that. They're like, well, how do you know that people won't steal? And the reality is that like, not only is it only guest access, which means that they're already paying to be here. So there's less incentive for people to steal, but also it's such high margin product that even if somebody does, God forbid, steal a bottle of water or even like a souvenir, it really doesn't even come close to what the cost would be if we were staffing this place. Because we are a smaller campground, we only have 21 tents here. There's no way for us to possibly staff something like this because it would be at least $15 an hour employee to sit here and stand here checking people out where the volume's just not there. So when I say that we can make $500 a day in revenue here, that's largely profit because there's no overhead expense. The overhead of people would be cost prohibitive. So come on inside. Let me show you a little bit about what it looks like and some of the technology behind how we run this place. So we fit a surprising amount of product in this store. There are hundreds of individual SKUs. It's a mixture of everything from things like games that parents can buy for their kids to little candies and popcorn to drinks and souvenir. Ultimately, it's really not meant to be like a full selection of groceries or anything like that. It's supposed to be like the impulse buys. And everything in here is something that you could ultimately even use at the campground itself. So we're down to our last one, but a lighter. Of course, you're gonna be making a fire starter. We sell a ton of that. Outside of the camp store, we have our firewood and our ice, which is probably our biggest seller overall between the fire starter and the firewood. That generates a substantial amount of money. The other thing that does really, really well is the souvenirs, because when you come to a campground like Ferncrest, you're going to want to take away something like either like a hat or a water bottle, these keychains, and honestly the apparel. So things like a pullover sweater that people will buy to use at night. We print all of these locally, so this is something that anybody can do. You buy blanks online. This is gilded here. And as far as like the hats go, we make these actually directly with manufacturer overseas. We use Arctic for our water bottles. We do a variety of other things as well. Like over here, we have s'more section where we sell graham crackers, chocolate marshmallow sticks. That's another big revenue driver. And then here we have our ice cream cooler. So this is for when our ice cream trailer outside is not open. People can come in here for a couple dollars, buy a bar of ice cream. So everything here from a food perspective, like when we started, we thought that we would have to get like a food distributor or supplier to like deliver. But what we realized very quickly was, you know, Costco or Sam's Club, you can buy everything in bulk. And then the price that you can actually get from buying at a wholesaler like that is pretty substantial. So you're looking at like 75 to 80% margin on food goods. And then you're looking at like 60 to 70% margin on all of the souvenirs, making this a really profitable store because like I said, there's not a single staff member here. And the only person that has to check on it is somebody comes in here daily, make sure everything's okay. That's the only thing that has to happen. Maybe the floors get swept because the secret sauce is in the technology. This really wouldn't be possible if it required cash. Cash is a risk, a liability, and then it would also require more hands-on. Whereas we only take credit card. And I think that's the key with this camp store is cash-free people-free store makes for a really successful experience. So the POS that we use is a iPad with Square, so the Square stand register. The secret here is that it's not just a Square register, it's a app called Kiosk Buddy that you put onto the Square register that allows it to be a self-service checkout. So if you come here and look at this, this here is the screen that it's locked to, and when I illuminate it, I can see exactly what I want. So fire is a main category, so we have that up front. You can choose through that. When you add something to it, it adds it up here, and then you can check out. We ask for the campsite number, and this is part of the honor system, is just to help keep people honest by making them know that, we're sort of like looking at that. So like if it's, campsite number 5, and then it's ready to scan your credit card right there. So the other thing to note, if we ever have customer service issues, a camp store is a great opportunity to give people discounts or things like that. So imagine somebody checks in, they have an issue with their hot tub or they have an issue with their tent. We can then quickly turn around and say, hey, we can give you $20 to the camp store. And that's a great way to address customer service issues with a really nice gesture without having to actually refund any cash. Because the beautiful thing about credit to a camp store versus actually a cash refund is that $20 is actually only like $3 to $4 out of our pocket, right? Because the actual cost of goods sold of something at $20 might only be $3 to $4. So in effect, they're getting the $20 in value, but we're only costing the business a few dollars as a result. So the camp store is great for revenue generation. It's great for customer experience. It's great for customer service. And it's also great for marketing beyond the time that people are here, because anytime that people buy any of this merchandise, which again is a big part of this camp store, they're going home and they're wearing a Ferncrest piece of gear and they're talking about it, and it becomes a bigger part of our word of mouth and marketing that is almost immeasurable, because that's really what merchandise is about. It's not about the dollars that we generate right now. It's about how we can actually create brand affinity for the long run. So here's what we did to renovate this camp store. We put in a new flooring, and believe it or not, the flooring here is sheets of plywood that we stripped down. It was actually the crates that the tents for the dome tents came in. So we took the crates apart, and then we took that otherwise trash plywood and we stripped it down into planks. So we cut it to 6 inches, and then we put it down like flooring. So previously there was really no flooring here. It was like a vinyl floor for the previous cabin. We wanted to make it wood. Then we took plywood and we made these shelves. So basically these are plywood shelves that are perfect for merchandising everything. We put a paneling up around the entire inside to give it a little bit more of like a cottagey old school feel. And then we painted that white. We put other plywood up here on the ceiling. I'm a big fan of just like the grain texture that plywood gives. So putting plywood up, trimming it out with the seams. So the plywood seams are all here, and those have just little one inch strips of wood that are trimmed out, and then it's stained with a polyurethane. And it's got LED lighting. It's got some basic outlets in here, which were existing when we got this cabin. We have a couple small security cameras that, again, help keep people honest. So we have a camera here. We have a camera on the outside as well to see if people are coming and going. Yeah, I mean, it's really, the renovation that was actually needed in this building is super basic. So the amount of actually like time and effort and money that went into renovating this was minimal. It was actually a building that we weren't sure if we were going to save. Most of the buildings that were here at Ferncrest Campground when we bought the place were basically tear downs. This was the one that we were so close to tearing down, and I'm so glad we didn't, because now looking back and seeing what it once was, which was, it had wallpaper, it had this old fish stuff going on, it had a tarp ceiling, so it didn't even have like parts of the ceiling were actually blue tarps. And now it's a revenue generating camp store that honestly is generating a substantial amount of revenue throughout the season. And it's more importantly generating memories, because people are coming in here remembering the camp store as a part of their overall experience at Ferncrest, and that is priceless. Thanks for watching. If you want to get more content about building a campground like this or anything business related, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Ding, ding.